All right, welcome to the big picture. Back again, um, checking in on this Friday morning. Peace, power, and love as always, and greeting. Um, kind of lost for words. I'm gonna get off into my topic here and just really kind of lost for words at this point in time, family. Um, Before I get off into it, if you are liking the content, please hit the like button, join, subscribe, share, all that good old stuff. Like I say, I'm just a common man that is more concerned about doing the right thing, and even when I'm not, I'm trying my best to. And like in everything and with everyone, we we all fall short. We can try our best and do our best, to be the person that um, we want to see in the mirror. um, I do want to see a better me in the mirror, and I think, as far as that's concerned, that we should all want to see the best person in the mirror that we can see. And like I say, I fall short. I'm not just totally happy with life, and I don't think. I think anybody that says that they are just completely happy with life as it stands right now is living somewhere else. It's so much that is taking place uh, over the last few weeks, months, years, decades. Uh, I can even say um, it is it is definitely time for us to realize that we need each other. I'm gonna go on and say that for this episode, and might get thrown in again somewhere. But that's just my little catchphrase. We need each other. Uh, we gotta realize and recognize that. And I'm gonna get off into the thick of my story and why I have been over the last couple of broadcasts just really with my foot on the neck of these coward cops, uh, this non-active administration, ain't shit Joe, and in Hyde and Harris, who refuse to do the right thing. Some people understand this are just going to do what they want to do. Some people have the power to do what they want to do. And we're seeing that right now uh, with Israel, the little brother of America. And I'm not really going to go back off into that. I covered that a week or so, a couple of weeks ago. And I told you, we don't have a dog in that fight. Um, as far the thing that we should pay attention to is how gracious they are and how eager they are to help Israel as well as Ukraine. And this government is falling to pieces itself. And I hope y'all are paying attention to that while they putting all these other distractions in our faces to keep us off focus and off key with what's really going on, uh, and especially what's really going on and what's really happening to us. Um, I am truly concerned about our state. I am truly concerned about how we're living and how we're not living, how we're not able to live. Uh, so I feel as if now is the perfect time for us to reposition ourselves, so to say, um, take advantage of what opportunity we have left, because opportunities are going to start. Just pay attention to how things are moving and what direction things are moving in, and whose advantage is that going to uh, be in favor of. Who these changes that are happening, who are they going to work for? you know some of us are so caught up and conformed to this world that we can't see any further than the front door, you know. Um, and I've said this several times. What's not at our front door will make it to our front door if we remain inactive, if we remain silent. Honestly, in the situation that we're facing, our silence is actually uh, a sort of complicity. Is sort of saying, okay, keep doing what you're doing to us. We don't care. I'm concerned. I'm past caring, because the strangest things keep happening to us. Nobody else is being subjected to the things and suffering the things and tragedies that we are suffering right now collectively. This is not just happening in certain parts of the country. This is happening all over the country. Uh, we can't forget the Red Summer of 1919. It hadn't been that long ago. And just Google the Red Summer and you'll know what I'm talking about if you're not familiar with it. But there are so many things that have happened in our past that are coming back to haunt us now in our present, and will haunt us into our future as long as we remain complicit, silent, inactive, going along to get along. Well, I don't want to say nothing, because then, look, you don't have to say nothing for it to happen to you. It's not just the police that are allowed the ability to uh, get rid of us. You're now seeing average, everyday civilians, patriots, they will call them, uh, taking their turn at the trigger. whenever they deem it necessary, or just becoming overly aggressive and overly, um, worried about our movement, overly worried about our uh, existence, our being, just our being here, just our existence is bothersome to some of them. And we've got to understand that this is deeper than just what we're seeing on the surface. This is really a very spiritual thing that's happening. And a lot of people don't understand that because it's not talked about. Uh, these preachers don't preach about it, and very few people speak about it. But there are several things that we need to open our eyes to and see the bigger picture. Oh, and while it just popped into my mind, welcome to my Boston, Mass family and my activatemedia.org family in Boston, Mass. I'd like to try to shout you all out as well. Uh, but so many things are happening that we should realize our power of togetherness, our unit being the key word in that phrase. One, one. I use this example all the time. Several, individuals who are strong, but when you bring those several individuals together, you now have power. You now have the ability with your unity, unity to move something, to make some things happen. We can do this all day individually. We're not going to get anything done. And they work overtime. Understand? They work overtime to make sure that we're not unifying. They work overtime to suppress the words that would bring us together. They work overtime to suppress those of us who are out here actually doing a little research and trying to wake up the masses. They work overtime to make and label those of us who are only out here exposing the lies and telling the truth about situations that we see happening, but we somehow, for some reason, continue to ignore them and we continue to remain silent. And just throw this out here, my disclaimer, and everybody knows this because I say this all the time as well. I don't promote violence, but I do promote self-defense, and especially when you're constantly being victimized. When you are constantly the victim of brutality, you have a right to defend yourself against even the badge and the gun. Read, do some research. We were alive when Tupac shot the two undercover cops, thinking that they were just two, white guys. So there are statutes where even if the badge and the gun is being overly aggressive, you have a right as a citizen to defend yourself against the badge and the gun, just like you would any other non-badge and gun carrier, if they're overly aggressive, you can meet them with that same aggression. Read, know this, understand this. We don't have to continue to be the victims, first of all. We don't have to be. We have a right to defend ourselves. The more of us that understand this and move on this, the tide will turn. Things will change. Some people only understand one way of doing things. And see, the thing about this experiment called America, they have always had it their way. They have very seldom been told no or that they couldn't. A lot of what they possess is taken, stolen. A lot of how they obtained it was through illegal, forceful, violent means. And they still continue to do this today. If you haven't watched, oh goodness, Silver Dollar Road, that is a documentary. I believe it was on Netflix, Prime. Anyway, Google it, and it will amaze you how they did this family. And this was as recent as 10 to 11, 12 years ago. Took land that had been in this family since um, way back when. Uh, and two of the brothers in particular had plots of land that were waterfront, and they just strong armed them out of their homes for no reason, homes that they had lived in all their lives. These are the kind of things that if we do not address them, they will continue to happen. And like I say, this happened like in the like 2010, 11. This is like when the trial and stuff. And then like what's crazy about that is we're just now hearing about it. I knew nothing of that until I saw that documentary. That's why I like to read and watch documentaries and things like that that will, give me some edge intellectually. And you have to know your enemy and you have to study him and know what he's capable of, know what he will and won't do. And one thing we know that he will do is get rid of what's in his way. We know this for a fact. That family was in the way of a people who wanted, white people who wanted that land. Just gonna be real. And they came in and through their courts and laws just made up shit and took the land from this family, from those two brothers specifically. To watch the video, watch the documentary. I'm not gonna get all off into that, but I'm saying that just to say that's what cowards do. They gang up on the less fortunate. They use their power to obtain what it is they want, whether it be legal or illegal. We should understand that by now, because just because slavery was legal didn't make slavery right. And we all know that. And they continue to do the same coward shit today. Uh, and I said this to a brother the other week in conversation. We gonna have to be the justice that we want. In order for us to be able to move around society and experience some sort of freedom, we are going to have to be the deliverers of justice that we want. If we don't, we'll never experience freedom, nor will our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, so on and so on. We got to speak the language, and we've got to defend ourselves. We're being victims, and like I say, not just by these coward cops, even these coward civilians, these patriots, they call them, are getting in on the act. It's like we're moving back to the 60s right about now, heading toward the 50s, because the 40s and 30s, and when lynching was prevalent, just like it is now. uh Another case that I talked about a few weeks ago, when it happened, Yona Lubrin, found hanged, ruled a suicide. And then a few days after that, in Jacksonville, they found a brother hanged. And I've got a clip saved in my phone. You can't even hardly Google and find any information about it. Why do you think it is that they're trying to suppress these lynchings? Let's call them what they are. I read a few articles, and some black psychologists were stating that, yeah, black people commit suicide, but not near the rate as any other ethnicity. And then the method is usually always gun. You know, uh, nobody's going to suffer themselves to death, because that's what that is, suffering. It's like somebody strangling you, like what happened with George Floyd. You know, that was a public lynching, because we literally watched this brother take his last breaths. And in saying that, I'm going to say this: I'm tired of hearing about my brothers and sisters taking their last breaths, our children, even our elderly. Johnny Hallman, don't forget about that, 62 years old. And, called for the race soldiers because he had been involved in a slight fender bender, ends up being tased to death. 62 years old. See, those are the things that we shouldn't have to worry about, but nobody understands that. And in the big scheme of it all, uh, nobody is suffering that in the form that we are. Nobody is experiencing that like we are. And that's part of the agenda as well. Now, right now, you hear the world in an uproar behind what's going on over in Gaza. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, uh, both of them are enemies to our existence, you know, uh, and that was just my opinion on that, because they both forced things upon us that we didn't ask for. So, why am I concerned about Israel and Palestine? But I am humane enough to say that what Israel is doing is straight up genocide, just like its behavior is, excuse me, just like his big brother, the United States. And that's why I say the United States has a day of reckoning coming upon itself. And that's why I continue to say we need to start separating ourselves spiritually, mentally, financially from this system, because um, we need to also bring ourselves closer together within proximity. We need to focus on occupying some states. And when I say occupying some states, I mean moving in numbers to certain areas of this country, occupying states, building our own neighborhoods, working with our own people to have the things that we want, and solidify having the things that, not what we want, that we need, because we need several things. Once we get the things we need, then we can focus on the wants. But right now, we need to focus on the necessities, unity being the first necessity, collectively moving together, collectively building together, educating this together. We can build our own system within a system and educate our own children, build our own curriculums based on truth of knowledge and not fairy tales and whitewashed stories. And these are things that will intrigue the young mind, and I think wake the young mind up to who they truly are. And if they can see us accomplishing those things, well, it'll give them a drive to do the same thing. We've got to give them a new direction and pull them away from what this system is giving them. Because the only thing this system is giving our children is a fast track to hell and or a fast track to jail. Plain and simple. It's the only thing that they've given our children consistently. Not opportunities, uh, nothing like that. No. And they even took what was really another means of our communicating through hip hop. They even infiltrated that, and now they got our youth out here uh, on some stupid stuff. I keep it clean, try to anyway, but on some stupid stuff. And that's why I say, yeah, we gotta change the narrative. Um, and we can't depend on nobody to do that. And it's even some of us, some of those that look like us, and I'm just gonna say it like this. Uh, but we gotta get lawyers out here that's uh, justice minded lawyers, and not these lawyers out here that are just civil attorneys looking for that big $1 million payday, profiting on Black death. Now, I'm not saying that is not owed the family, but to have people that look like you more concerned about the money you can get than the loss of that life. And true enough, there's nothing that you can do to bring back a life once it's gone. Nothing. But in my loss, the last thing I'm focused on is money. I want whoever is responsible for my pain and suffering to also have some pain and suffering. And that's something that in so many of these cases, especially with these killer, coward cops, we ain't getting no justice. You know, families get paid, and then once they're paid, you notice, and I want y'all to really think about this. You notice how all of these families and some of these, the most high profile cases that we have saw in years, are now just silent, nowhere to be found, not saying nothing, not even being active in the midst of all these um, deaths that have taken place since their loss of loved one. These families took that hush money, and I've been saying this for years. That's hush money that no longer get that null and voids your ability to ever say anything else publicly about the loved one they took from you. When you take that money, that's part of the stipulation in receiving that money. And if you do violate that, you can be made to pay that money back. Now, this is how the court works. And this is what these attorneys, some of these attorneys, this is the route they'll take us, as opposed to the real route they should take, and that is for justice, for conviction, for some real hard time. Because in the majority of these cases, it's been open and shut, cold blooded murder. Just like the case that's taking place right now, where these coward cops in Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm sure that by now, we've all heard about it. It bothered me so much when I heard about it. I was speechless, and that's something that rarely happens, but it happens. I was really beside myself to hear about this young man, 37 years old, I believe he was, and how he was taken from his mother over 100 and some days ago. She had filed missing person reports. She had called this police station, and are they lie so much that it is to a point where they believe their own lies, and they really have don't ever have an intent on telling the truth about anything. Like in this case, come to find out, this young man had a pill bottle with his name. They say he didn't have his ID. Okay. But he had a pill bottle with his name. And in most cases, those pill bottles also have your address on them as well. Uh, Now, matter of fact, well, I don't see my address on here, no. But My name is on here, so they could have easily taken that pill bottle and just like the coroner used uh, fingerprinting to ID him, uh, they could have ran his name and saved a whole lot of time. They claim they tried to call his mother, which I don't believe. I don't believe that because he was hit by an off-duty officer, an off-duty Jacksonville police officer. Hit him, uh, and he was trying to cross a highway, you know. And I've been down this particular Highway 55 and in Jackson. I've been all over this country in the 22 plus years I drove. Um, but for these officers to cover that up and lie, and then you have this mayor, and this is why I say we can't, just because somebody looks like us don't mean that they have our best interests in hand. Just like these attorneys do not have these families' best interests at hand. And I've heard several of the mothers that Crump has represented say that he tells them, don't be with that angry black woman stuff. They not gonna give you nothing for that. So right off the jump, he's coaching them into how to get the money, putting them on those pedestals and not even having the intent on getting them a conviction. They're more focused on the civil aspect of the case. And this is how they coach these brothers and sisters that they represent in these cases. They coach them to get the money. Forgive them. We gonna get this money though. I can't forgive. I don't have any forgiveness for people who don't atone for their transgressions. And not in one instinct, not one instant have I seen one of these coward cops apologize for what they did. So to me, it's just the sheer arrogance of these murderers. Then they want you to feel sorry for them. You know, they want to try to paint the victims as a nobody, a good for nothing, and then they go digging, hoping and praying that they can find some sort of criminal behavior in the past of the victim, the one who's no longer with us. And this has been the case in several of these tragedies that have taken place at the hands of these killer, coward ass cops. And now you have this young man, not only did they run over him, and not only is this mayor, uh, Chokwe or Chokwa Lumumba, uh, standing with his police. They're going to investigate uh, themselves, which they did, and determined that it was an accident and there was no malicious intent. And I want to correct that, because what made it malicious is the fact that they hid it. If there was no malicious intent, that mother would have known that her child had been hit on that highway. But she didn't even know that. She doesn't even have any specifics about the accident that took his life. She still doesn't have any specifics from what I read. So nobody is being upfront with the information, as they always do. They wait a few days so they can doctor the tape and cut and edit and give the public what they want the public to see, so that it will somewhat match their narrative. These are the things that we see on a consistent basis with these killer, coward ass cops. And there's nothing different with this young brother that lost his life. And then after hiding it, what makes it even more malicious, why this Sambo mayor Lumumba is in Jacksonville talking about it was no malicious intent. What makes it even more malicious is that not only did they hide it, not contact his family, they buried the man behind the sheriff's department, from what I understand. They buried him and gave him number 672. And that number makes me wonder, okay, so is that like just a random number that they gave this brother? Or is this the 672nd body that's been buried out there? You know, because that is what makes this whole incident malicious. And that's what burns my ass. And then we have an administration, ain't shit Joe, and in Hyde Harris, who more concerned about these Ukrainians and these fake Jews, these wannabe us people over there, these Jewish people, not the Jews, but Jewish, the synagogue of Satan that's over there. That's what they worried about, standing up and protecting that, continuing to bomb a people who are pretty much defenseless. But this is what these powerful entities tend to do, just like how they continue to do us here in America. Just like this young brother, Dexter Wade. Had that been a person that looked like them, do you think that that body would have been so disregarded? Do you think that his mother or father would not have been contacted about their son being hit on Highway 55? So there are two justice systems in America. As much as y'all hate to admit it, damn it, you can see it now. Because there is no way in hell in 2023 that this young man's family, with all the access of technology now, that this young man's family, mother, should not have been contacted before they took it upon themselves to just makeshift bury him behind the damn sheriff's office. And that's bothersome on a whole lot of levels, because we got a whole lot of us that come up just missing. So this kind of makes me scratch my head and ask myself, is this what's happening? to the people that just end up missing, never to be found again. And then the irony of it is, they had another family member who was killed in a police, who was murdered in a police encounter. I was reading in the article. So, you know, first of all, we got to be the ones. We can't keep depending on these high dollar lawyers that ain't going, ain't focused on getting justice, who are not focused on getting convictions, who are only focused on getting currency. We got to cut them loose, because my loved one's life, I don't care how much money they give me, it's not going to bring him back. But and if I know that that son of a so and so that took my son or my daughter or my uncle or my cousin's life is somewhere sitting in a jail cell for the next 20 years, I'm a little more content with that. I'm a little more content with that, because I know he gonna be in there, unless he's on privilege status, but he's gonna be suffering and doing without. So we gotta focus on attorneys and find attorneys that's focused on justice and not financial gain, because financial gain ends your ability to ever say anything else publicly. So think about that, because if that's my loved one, whenever I feel like talking about them, I'm gonna talk about them. They didn't know him like I knew him, so, or her, or so yeah. Whenever I get the feeling or the urge, I'm gonna talk about them, whether it be publicly, privately, whatever. Nobody's going to stop my ability to do that. Nobody's going to inhibit my ability to do that because of a few funky dollars that y'all give me. You think you can buy my tongue, my voice? No. And that's why I say we got to stop selling out. That's why they keep doing it, because they know they can chunk a few dollars towards us, silence us, and that'll be that. We'll forget about it. And a lot of these cases that were very high profile, the families took the payday, they took the bait. Now they can't even mention their loved one on no kind of platform. So that's something to think about. First they mistreat us, and they just chunk us in a hole behind the sheriff's department, and then they chunk a few dollars our way. That's what they think of us. That's what they think of us. Let that sink. I don't get it. I don't get our disunity. I really don't understand why we don't understand how much we need each other. We all we got. We all we need. Like I always say, we've never needed them. They have always needed us. This country has always needed us. We never needed this country for nothing. We'd be better off going back to where we were, gentrified, segregated, separated, when we cared and loved on one another and treated each other right, respected one another. We built together. We had businesses, schools, our own clinics, hospitals, all that. We had all that. That's what we need once again. Our own communities, all that. We can do it. We just gotta start doing it. Period. Or keep on trying to survive in this system that ain't never been set up for us to survive in. We can do one of the two. The choice is ours. The choice is ours. So, um, you know, um, that's all I got. Yeah, that's all I got. I'm like, what is it gonna take? We gonna have to keep seeing brothers like this, and how this was able to even happen is because of our inactivity, because of our uh, I don't know, disregard for our own lives. I'm concerned about us. I'm concerned that it's only us that this is happening to. That bothers me. It's up to us to change the condition. We all we got. We all we need. And we need each other. All right. Like I always say in closing, if you're liking the content, smash up the likes, subscribe, share. I appreciate my subscribers. I appreciate my activatemedia.org family out of Boston, Mass, who will actually get this broadcast tonight. So, with that being said, like I always say in closing, let's plan, let's organize, let's unify because we all have a key right here and right here. I'm out. Peace, power, and love.